we had for some time been collecting data on where this was occurring, primarily in Great Britain. The presentation I'm giving here is an update of one we did a year ago, but is now being also published in the Journal of Airport Management Journal. I'm trying to get it correct. Which is read by basically folks higher up the food chain in airports and boards of directors and so forth. Trying to say, as far as ground transportation goes, we think the future may be tolling, may be license plate recognition, and after I get through with this presentation, we've asked gatekeepers and Turner to kind of update us on some of the technologies that are being used. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Gatekeeper for being one of our sponsors. I also kind of want to have some comments. We've heard from AAAE's type of looking at making of vehicles. Also would like to have Planning Technology, also one of our sponsors, comment, if you will, on where we are industry-wide in being able to read the license plate or toll tag of every vehicle coming through the airport. So let me do this quickly. As I said, this is an update, and what we've been studying is both the number of airports and the fees that British airports have been paying and asking their private automobiles to pay as they come to the curb. This is a relatively new phenomenon. You're talking about something that's less than 10 years old. You're talking about now up to 20 airports and having different pricing schedules with respect to either picking up, dropping off, or in some cases both picking up and dropping off, wanting to get to the airport curb. You see here in terms of the number of airports charged, and we have to update this to 2016, there are now 20, when just 4 or 5 years ago there were only 10. And these are spread out. Well, we had a slide that talks about the increasing in pricing. This was interesting. It was kind of like, okay, we now get the right to charge private automobiles, and we're in need of more funds. Let's turn the wheel a little bit and increase those funds. And they've gone up rather rapidly. And these charges for pickup and drop-off are not small. I think there's a conversion factor here, 3.5 or 3.5 pounds for 30 minutes is really about a $5 charge, which should get attention of many people. I'm not going to go through all of these slides because I want to make sure we keep us on time. Prices are different. There's not much uniformity depending on the size of the airport. Surprisingly, it's not directly correlated to size. You have some smaller for Great Britain size airports, and they're charging some of the higher fees. That's just a graphic picture of where they are and whether they charge both a drop off and pick up or just a single pickup charge. In Great Britain, they use primarily, for the larger airports, they use primarily license plate recognition. And I often kid my European counterparts, the reason you use that is you got these big license plates. It's a lot easier to read them than we have here. Our license plate recognition has improved, but then you have to have a way of billing the individual cars. And unlike Great Britain, where it's no problem for them to be able to do it, here we'd have difficulties with that. As Ann will talk about a little bit later, we're primarily going to be looking more at toll tags, not necessarily ABIs, but ways in which vehicle owners are already paying for use of a roadway or a bridge. Fee drop-off is often still available at car parks located, free, I should say, car parks located further from the terminal. But that means you got to schlep your bags all the way to the terminal, and it is in many cases somewhat inconvenient. Benefits of the drop-off for the airport: reduce congestion, improving air quality, provide a safer drop-off zone, that is fewer people getting to that curb and less congestion, encourages the use of public transit. These are the stated objectives of the airports in why they are charging the private automobile, and obviously to offset their operating costs. They conduct a survey each year of the Civil Aviation Authority, somewhat similar to our FAA, and they ask about mode choice to arrive at the airport, and they assume people arrive and depart from the airport using the same mode. What we have done is take that data and sort of look at what the upper bound of revenue that each of these airports can expect from from either their pickup, their drop-off, or their combined pickup and drop-off. As I said, 1 British pound equals 1.33 US dollars. That was of just last week. So you can see these numbers represent significant revenue to these airports. At airports that have both drop-off and pickup charges, and this is the next slide, you can get up to $14–15 million by this process, which is already in existence there at those airports. Now, the significance of this particular research was to say, okay, is it going to be coming to the United States? U.S. doesn't currently have a pickup or drop-off charge, with the exception, let's say, of DFW, that has an entry charge and an exit charge, which pretty much is the same sort of thing. But it pales in comparison to some of these charges. Using available data on the number of passengers being dropped off and picked up, we were able to calculate and just sort of estimate the kind of revenues that would be possible if, on the one hand, we charge just $1. That is, we get our foot in the door, if a small charge. You get LAX with a number of in this case, drop-off and pickup charges, I'm sorry, somewhere around $11–12 million. Certainly, even for LAX, that's money that would be worth going after. But if you add to that the actual fees being charged for taxi cabs at these airports, I thought it would be fun to take a look at. I'd say equal fee, or how much do you charge to the private automobile? Well, we charge the same amount as we charge a taxi cab. You suddenly find LAX going to nearly $30 million a year. And we just selected a few airports there. Some of them are in here. Atlanta, for example, there's another $10 million laying out there if you just charge the private automobile. Structurally, okay. That pretty much is really what I wanted to get out of this presentation. The reactions to these pickup and drop-off charges, well, the British, outrageous. This is terrible. Within 3 months, it melted into nothing. Signage, they felt, was not often clear. They were sort of startled when they got to the airport and they had to pay a fee. Some were mechanical fees, others were automatic fees they got in the mail. They felt that the drop-off areas were inconvenient, long wait times, bad weather, and even the free lots had a strict time limit before they were charged. What I thought was significant was the fact that they apparently had no change in behavior. They still drove to the airport to drop off and to pick up. The taxi cabs didn't have legislation to allow them to charge for the pickup and drop-off charge, but that has been resolved, and most taxi cab companies in Great Britain now have that ability. The results thus far are rather inconclusive. There's no increase or decrease in the use of public transportation after the fees. So that objective really was not met by the British airports. The environmental benefit really was not much because the behavior of pickups and drop-offs didn't change that much. What did change was airport coffers. Airports are very profitable. In the future, is it going to stay in the UK? Some other European airports are now considering it. Will it come to the United States? It all depends on, I think, the airports in the United States in terms of the need for revenue. If in the event that in the future Uber, Lyft, and others begin to take away revenue from parking, car rentals, not just ground transportation, you may find airports literally going to the use of pickup and drop-off by the private automobile. As Abu said yesterday, it's already in a long-range plan, the ability to be able to do that. And I think as revenue benefits are further realized by these other airports worldwide, I think it undoubtedly will come to the United States. So that is just a brief update. One of the things that your association is doing, we as an association are pushing the idea of equality to curb, that it's not only commercial and courtesy vehicles that literally need to pay for the use of that curb. The private automobile, the passenger should also be paying for it.